All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? And the video I'm bringing today, we are going to talk a little bit about the patch notes, the things that I like, the things that I kind of wish existed, and hopefully they still make adjustments on, all the good stuff. And as is always the case with these videos, guys, this is meant to be a discussion. You know, I'm not trying to say that the way that I say things is the end-all, be-all or anything. These are my opinions. I like having talks with you guys. I like having these discussions. If you disagree, comment in the comment section below. If you agree and you want to add more onto it, comment in the comment section below. A lot of you will not watch the video and you'll comment anyways, which is cool. Regardless, it doesn't matter. These are just for discussion. So, number one, the thing that I like the most, I love the changes to the CP tree. I think Champion Point System 2.0, it's got a lot more variety to it. I talk about this a lot in PvP. It's cool when you can make your character yours. When you can either shore up some weaknesses or you can build in some strengths on some mechanics that you're really relying on. And the current CP tree doesn't allow that to happen. I don't go too much into the CP tree with a lot of my builds because a lot of the Magicka-based specs are the same. A lot of the stamina-based ones are the same. Like, you don't really adjust a ton from class to class with your CP because there's really not many choices that you have, which is changing with the new Champion Point system, which I think is fantastic. Now, with the amount of changes that they've done, there will obviously be some specific mechanics that'll overperform on some specific builds. It's tough for me to know which ones are those going to be off the top of my head when I'm looking at it, but overall, I really like the changes quite a bit. It should help performance also, which, I mean, who doesn't want an improvement to performance? So yeah, I'm very, very excited about the Champion Point tree. It definitely looks like they put a lot of work into it, and there's going to be some more adjustments before it goes live, but overall, I like it quite a bit. The number two thing that I liked was the base stat increase. So they adjusted with the Champion Point changes. They also provided base stats to characters, and so you have more weapon and spell damage at no CP. You also take less damage, which is going to help new characters quite a bit. It's also going to help players that like no CP, that like battlegrounds and no CP, because currently proc sets are way more dominant than stat-based sets, and you have lower healing, you take more damage and no CP, and when you have proc sets running rampant, it's really hard to recover. Now, I've done multiple one-button videos kind of talking about the current proc sets and the state of the game with them, and they're all satirical videos. A lot of people didn't get that they were satirical. They thought I was serious, which was pretty funny. I can link those in the description below if you guys want to go check those out. But yeah, it was just me running around with proc sets, hitting one offensive button to try and see how much damage I could do in VGs and how effective I could be. And yeah, the amount of proc damage you can get has, before the PTS, has really raised the floor for damage you can do in this game with no effort. With no effort at all. You don't really have to do much and you get a bunch of damage with this, and I'd like to see an adjustment here. There's a bunch of different ways to go about doing it. I don't want to see proc sets nerfed to the ground to where they're into obscurity again, and because once again, guys, build variety is nice, whether it's through the CP tree, whether it's through different weapon skill lines, whether it's through different gear sets. Different types of gear sets being viable and good is a good thing. Currently, proc sets are just overperforming. They're just the best thing to run. If you're not running proc sets, you're probably wrong, or you want to engage in hard mode like I do, and you want to be wrong engaged in hard mode like I do. Yeah, that's just kind of the way it is. And so what I would like to see happen is there's a few different ways you can go about addressing this. Number one, you can have Malakath not impact proc sets. So you just make it to where all the proc sets crit. If all of them have to crit, you can't run Malakath. You can wear proc sets and they all stack and they all do a ton of damage. They're still going to be really, really effective. You just don't get that 25% burst boost that you would get with Malakath and proc sets, which is a substantial nerf, but the amount of stacking that you can get with them would still make proc sets very effective and probably still best, in my opinion. Number two, you can put a global cooldown on proc sets. And so, let's say, hypothetically, you're running Icy Conjurer and the Vatishran's Destro Staff. If you hit Ellie Drain, only one of them procs. And once it goes on cooldown, the other one can't proc until that one's off cooldown. So it prevents the stacking of proc sets, which is, in my opinion, the biggest issue. The biggest issue with all these sets is stacking all of them with similar conditionalities. So the Vatishran's Destro with Icy Conjurer, or the VMA 2H with Unleashed, and Venomous Smite or Savara's or whatever you want to run on top of it. All these sets all function off of the same skill, and so you get a lot of damage off of doing one thing, which is where the one button thing came from. If I have to come back and do these one button videos, guys, I will do it. Just let me know if you want to see that. I have one in the works. At least one is coming. If you want to see more, let me know. But yeah, that's just the way it currently is set up right now. And the reason I bring this up is we have a stark contrast right now on PC. PCEU and PCNA, everybody's doing the CP test to see if all these sets that have conditionalities are impacting performance. And so a lot of the people that I've talked to on PC have said that performance in primetime isn't really any different. It's still really laggy, but it's way more enjoyable in PvP when the game works. And so even if we don't get any adjustments out of performance in PvP, I haven't heard a single person that says, I wish we had the proc sets back. They enjoy the fact that when they roll up on a group, they don't have 10,000 different effects off of light attacks on their health bar. They like that when they see their death recap when they die, it's skills on their death recap and not all proc sets. And so those sorts of things to bring stat-based sets in line would be nice. Now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that they can't exist or they shouldn't exist, because they should. It's just they're way stronger. And so those adjustments, I think, would help quite a bit. I think it's something that the community is really enjoying because, yeah, like I said, a lot of people are enjoying the combat in PvP right now because it's not just a bunch of cheese on cheese with a little bit more cheese sprinkled on top. So we want to be able to poop. We can't have this much cheese, guys. It's not good for our colon. It's not good for our bowels. Less cheese in the diet. So yeah, those are my thoughts on procs. Now overall, I like a higher damage meta, and so I think reducing procs a little bit and increasing the max weapon and spell damage sets and max magicka sets would help quite a bit. I think all those sets need to be brought up because, like I said, I like a higher damage meta. I was talking on my stream yesterday, and we were talking about 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. If you guys played back then, I was a new character, and I had lower CP, but my average on my Sork, as I was hitting 10k plus crystal frags regularly. Like, that was probably my average that I hit on most people, was a 10k crystal fragment. And when you think about that, back then people were running 20 to 25k health. Most people were around 20k. So we're talking about one skill taking half of somebody's health bar. If we look at the meta now, to where people are running 35 to 40k health, and we'll go on the underside. We'll say everybody's running 35k health, which is a way understatement. I think most people are in the 40 to 50k range. But let's say everybody's running 35k. In order for it to be similar, you'd have to be getting smacked with 18k frags and 18k D-swings, which I agree is too high. Like, that's too much damage in my opinion, but that's essentially more than double what we currently have. And so in my personal opinion, guys, what I hate in the ESO world more than anything is stalemating fights. Stalemating is the worst feeling in the world, where you're fighting one person, two people, five people, doesn't matter. If they can't kill you and you can't kill them, that is the worst feeling in the world. I would rather lose than stalemate. That's just my opinion. That's why I make builds the way I do, because I like to have as much damage as possible. I want to be able to kill as many people as possible. I do not like stalemating. Stalemating is boring combat. PvP is player versus player. I want to play a game where we can kill most people. Now, this isn't to say that tanks shouldn't exist. It's just the current meta with the current amount of damage is really low relative to what old higher damage metas are. Now, I know some people are going to comment in the comment section below, and they're going to say, well, else you just want to be able to 1vx more easily. The people I'm fighting also have high damage. I'm not saying that I should have high damage and nobody else should. That would be me trying to win 1vx's more. It doesn't matter if it's a tankier meta. It doesn't matter if it's proc meta. It doesn't matter if it's a high damage meta. My 1vx win rate is going to be roughly the same across the board because the rules are just shifting for all of us. Like, I'm going to win the same amount of fights that I lose, regardless of whatever it is. It comes down to my skill level, my builds that I'm running, and all those other sorts of things. So it's not me wanting to win more. It's me stating that this is the type of PvP that I enjoy more. I enjoy a higher damage meta. I would like more damage. I would like less stalemates. And I think most people agree. There's nothing wrong with tanks existing in PvP. It's just really easy to be tanky right now. It's really, really easy to be tanky right now. I could run on a few different specs just about any set in the game and be tanky. It's just, that's how the mechanics currently function. Even with D-Swing, hitting as hard as it does, I've hit maybe 9, 10k D-Swings and people are running around with 40k health. Like most people, I'm hitting 6 to 8, 5 to 8k D-Swings. And so when you're talking about people with 35, 40k health, it's not the same impact that the game used to be, that the damage used to have. So I like a higher damage meta. I'd like to see proc sets brought down a little bit. I would like to see stat sets brought up. That would bring them more in line. That would make them more competitive with one another. And then, yeah, that's why I don't want to see proc sets completely nerfed into the ground, because I understand that people like them. And if people like them and they want them to still exist, they should be competitive. But in order for that to happen, weapon-based sets need to be brought up. So those are the things that I kind of wish I would see. And then finally, the final thing that I really wish saw a better look at was health-based heals, specifically with Werewolf. Now, Werewolves are extremely tanky right now. I know this is coming as a shock to you guys. Nobody's ever seen a tanky Werewolf in PvP in this last patch. I'm sure I'm just saying this and you guys are like, dude, what are you talking about? But what they did is they went after the 10,000 resistances and they gave it a major resolve and major ward, whatever. Well, they gave it the major armor buff. And so the current tanky Werewolf build that most people are running, most Werewolves that you see are running Crimson, Alessian, and Mighty Chuden. So they're running all the ends. Crimson, Alessian, Mighty Chuden. And so the goal is Alessian gives you health recovery based off of your resistances. Werewolf gives you 10,000 when you're in werewolf form. Chuden gives you the major buff with the one-piece resistances. So you can stack a ton of resistances and you get health recovery, which helps make you tanky. So you have high resistances, you have high damage mitigation, you have health recovery on top of it, which makes you very, very tanky and very tough to kill. That's the current build. Well, they nerfed Alessian. And the major armor buff means you can't stack Chuden with the Werewolf anymore. You're not going to get that armor buff. So it's a substantial armor nerf on top of the health recovery nerf. So that specific build is impacted drastically in the PTS, in the current PTS, which is good. However, my Werewolf builds that I've been running do not run any of those sets. I do not run Crimson. I do not run Alessian. I do not run Chuden. I run none of the ends, guys, okay? So I don't run those, and I'm still tanky. I'm still really hard to kill because of the mechanics that exist with Werewolf that they did not address. It doesn't matter what sets you run. And what the requirements you need to make a tanky Werewolf are as follows. If take out your notepads, guys, get ready to write this down. You need high health. Number one, you get high health, that means your healing's better. Okay, so each time you hit a howl, your healing's going to heal for more. If you get 40k plus health, you're going to get 20k plus healing every time you hit that button, guys. Which is way more than anything else, any other burst-based heal in the game. It's crazy. That's why it needs an adjustment in PvP. Number two, you need the Magicka Sustain in order to sustain that healing. That's it. Doesn't matter how you go about doing it, whether you use Clockwork, Citrus Fillet, you get some mag recovery that way, you run a set with mag recovery, you run a set that reduces the cost of mag recovery, you run a race that reduces the cost of magical abilities. It doesn't matter. You just need the sustain for Magicka recovery and you need high health. So, if I wanted to make a tanky Werewolf and I wanted to go in PvP, as long as I fulfilled those two requirements, I'm going to be very, very tough to kill. And so, I'm going to go through some examples for you guys. With sets that don't make any sense because it's a Werewolf. A Werewolf is a stamina-based damage dealer. If I wanted to make a very tanky build, I could run Buffer of the Swift. White armor set, 10% damage mitigation on all abilities. Tanky set. Run Buffer of the Swift. And then, I can craft Seducer. So I could wear a light armor set. As long as I have 40 to 45k health, the cost reduction on light armor, and the cost reduction with Seducer would allow me to sustain my healing, and I would be so tanky still. It doesn't make any sense that you would run light armor on a stat based, like on a werewolf, but my healing and my damage mitigation would be good. And although those two sets don't make any sense, I would still be a tank in those two sets on a werewolf. So when you look at it and you think about how you can even do a werewolf in light armor and be tanky as hell, we need to look at the mechanics of how a werewolf functions. It doesn't matter. Like if I could run Plague Doctor. I could run Plague Doctor in Willow's Path. I could run Eternal Vigor in Willow's Path. I could run Seducer and frickin' something. It doesn't matter as long as you can sustain the health, you have higher health, and you have the magic of recovery, you will be tanky on a werewolf. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with tanks existing in PvP. But when I can literally take just about any two sets in the game and make a tanky werewolf, that's when the problems exist. That's when there's too much imbalance. So what I would do is I would go after the 10% damage mitigation on Pack Leader. I'd reduce it to 5%. It's not a ton, but it's a good start. I don't want to see werewolves nerfed to the ground. I don't. I would go after the health-based healing. I would cap it to where the maximum heal you can get isn't what it currently is. Like I said, I'm getting 24k healing on some of my builds, guys. Like I have a 24k Werewolf Howl screenshot that I posted where I'm healing for 24k with one button, which is way, way higher than anything else. And so I'm tanky, and even if you burst me down to 5k health, I'm going to recover with one click of the button, and we're going to reset the fight. So I would go after that. I would put a cap on it in PvP to where maybe the maximum non-crit that you can get is 10k. So when you crit for 15 to maybe 17k. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that would be a huge change in the right direction. Or you make it scale off of your max stats to where I couldn't run light armor. I couldn't run heavy armor. If I wanted better healing, I'd have to stack weapon and spell damage. So then I would be squishier for the higher healing. So there would be the risk reward there. So if you had it scale off your weapon and max stats and your weapon damage, you would have to build into that. I couldn't just run like light armor sets like I said and be a tank, because now my healing would be low. My damage mitigation would be good, but my healing would be lower because of how it scales. So there's multiple different ways to go after it there. Those mechanics are still going to exist, and it's still going to you can still make a tanky werewolf with just about any two sets in the game. And so that's another adjustment that I would like to see. And it's not just werewolves. It's not just their health-based heals. Other health-based heals like the Necro Scythe, other health-based heals like Arctic Blast, those sorts of things also need to impact. We need to put a cap on it in PvP. I'm not talking about PvE, because I know PvE tanks need it for their dungeons and trials and all these other sorts of things. They need to be able to survive. I totally get it in those environments, but we have Battle Spirit for a reason. Battle Spirit can go after the amount of healing that those health-based heals are providing. We can put a rule in place there to where it's not game-breaking in those environments. So that's what I'm talking about. That's how I think you go about looking after it. Either you get rid of the health-based heals and make them scale off your max stats, or you make them scale off of something else. But currently, health-based healing in PvP is pretty damn strong. And you stack the health-based healing with the high proc sets. There's a bunch of different ways you can look at it. If you go after proc sets and you lower the effectiveness of proc sets a little bit, people won't stack health as much because they can't rely on proc sets as much. And so some people will be immortal tanks, but they're going to stalemate and they're not going to be able to do what they can currently do, which is fine. Like it's an okay adjustment. But if you go after health-based healing a little bit, and you go after proc sets, and you buff stat-based sets, you're impacting their tankiness, you're impacting your ability to do more damage with stat-based burst, and you're able to kill them a little bit more effectively. All those little changes just kind of add up and turn an unkillable build, regardless of sets, into something that can be killed and can still dish out damage, because they have to scale. They're like, okay, well, I can't stack the tankiness that I can, so maybe I'm going to have to run more damage, and now I'm going to be able to kill people, but I can also be killed, which is a way more enjoyable environment for PvP in general, in my opinion. So yeah, those are the things that I want to see adjusted the most still, that still haven't happened. Proc sets, stat-based sets, health-based heals. Those are my top three. I really hope they continue to potentially look at these things, because I do think that those are the things that are missing the most in the PTS. So if you agree with me, comment in the section below. If you disagree with me, comment in the section below. Please provide your reasoning. You know, I'm entitled to have my opinion changed. if you guys provide a good opinion, I can just sit there and I can say I'm wrong. There's been multiple times on my channel, guys, where somebody's brought up a good argument and I've made another video and I said, hey, I'm wrong. This person's right, I'm wrong. My bad. My goal is to get good information out there. And so if somebody changes my opinion on something, I will change my opinion and I'll provide a video. So if you want to be that person that's right and you want to disagree and provide an opinion, you can do that. And yeah, if you sway me, that could happen. So yeah, we're gonna end this video here. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.